Hello and welcome. My name is Aiden Shields and I am the Sports Moron. So happy to have you join me here today. We're going to be talking about some of the trades that have already happened as we approach the trade deadline and some of the rumors kind of circulating around some of the players who are kind of on the block, as you will, as the deadline approaches here in about a week or so. The first trade I really want to talk about is the James Robinson trade. He got traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars over to the New York Jets, and the Jets completely fleeced the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars have any kind of sense of how to build a winning football team or a winning football program because this is one of the stupidest trades I have seen in a very long time. The Jaguars are in no real sense out of the running to be a playoff team and make that playoff push. They're really just behind the Tennessee Titans, who are extremely one-dimensional. And if they don't have Derrick Henry kind of carrying their whole team, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're just behind the Colts, and they're ahead of the Texans. Texans aren't going to catch them. The Colts are not a good team. The Titans are an okay team. The Jaguars' season is not dead. It's not at all dead. They're very much alive and in the hunt to make a playoff push. Now, one of the things that the Jaguars have done really well all season is utilize both running backs, James Robinson and Travis Etienne. And I understand that the Jaguars really want Travis Etienne to kind of be their number one back, their lead back. But the tandem between James Robinson and Travis Etienne had just the right amount of change of pace, because these are two running backs with completely different styles. James Robinson is a bruiser back. He runs in between the tackles, and he's really good at it. Travis Etienne, while he can do that, he's much more explosive. He's better catching balls out of the backfield, running those kind of sweeps and things that go more to the outside and to the sidelines. So two completely different styles of running back who paired really well together in this Jaguars offense. So right off the bat, James Robinson, in order for a team to trade for James Robinson, somebody needs to offer more than what he's worth, because the Jaguars have no reason to trade it. So you have to offer more than what the player is worth in order to pique the interest of the Jaguars. Okay. Now, the Jets' perspective. The Jets just lost their rookie running back, Breece Hall, for the entire remaining season. Okay, he tore his ACL. They really only have one running back, Michael Carter, on their roster, who's a viable option. So the Jets are a desperate team. What happens when there's a desperate team looking for one specific position? The price for that position skyrockets because they have to fill that hole in their team. They have to. So teams can ask for absurd prices for players who are not worth the price that they're asking in order for the trade to really happen, right? So the Jets have to overpay, and the Jaguars are in a similar position, right? They're not going to accept a bullshit offer for a player they have no reason to trade for, right? Right? Oh, no, totally wrong, totally wrong. Jags decided, instead of utilizing all of the leverage that is in their favor, they just said, hey, you know what, James Robinson, you're clearly a really good back. You're not quite elite, but you're definitely better than average. We're going to ship you off for a conditional 6th round pick. There is no logic in this trade. Zero from the Jaguars' perspective. Zero. If there is a universe in which James Robinson is worth a 6th round pick, I don't know what fucking universe that would be, but wow, is that just incorrect? He's a perennial Pro Bowler and consistently rushes for over 1,000 yards every single season. So I'm kind of confused how he's worth a 6th round pick. Plus, the Jets are desperate for a running back. So why would you accept this low ball bullshit off? It makes no sense to me. The Jaguars have no concept of what their players are actually worth, and they clearly don't want to win. There's no reason in the world why you should have traded James Robinson for a conditional 6th round pick. It's going to turn into a fifth round pick because he needs like 200 yards rushing in order for that sixth round pick to become a fifth round pick. But what does a fifth round pick do for the Jaguars? It's going to be a late round, probably a corner or a running back who's never going to be a starter in the NFL, who's going to get bounced around practice squad to practice squad until they finally retire. That's what fifth round picks turn into 90% of the time. So why you trade a guy who's always going to give you 1,000-yard rushing seasons unless he gets hurt, which he's only had one injury and he recovered extremely fast from? Like, why would you get rid of that guy? It makes no sense. If somebody can make it make sense for me, please leave it in the comments. And I'm like not a Jaguars fan, I'm a Texans fan, so like I'm not even pissed off that my team traded away somebody like this. It's just the stupidity of some of these NFL teams blows my mind. Blows my mind. How a fan like me can rationalize how you are so bad at your job, that should not even be possible. I'm a complete doofus, and even I would not have accepted that trade. Like, it makes my blood boil when people do stupid things for no reason. It's the same reason why I'm frustrated with Nathaniel Hackett. There's just no rhyme or reason for why they do what they do. They just do fucking whatever. And so James Robinson got traded for peanuts for no good reason. Now, if we want to talk about a good trade that actually worked out really well for both teams, let's talk about Robert Quinn. So the Bears traded pass rusher Robert Quinn to the Philadelphia Eagles. And at first I thought, hey, this is a really stupid trade because the Bears only got a fourth-round pick in return for Robert Quinn. But one of my colleagues who's a Bears fan kind of walked me through a little bit more on why it makes more sense for the Bears to get rid of Robert Quinn. So Robert Quinn not really fitting in well with the Bears' new defensive scheme under Matt Eberflus. He's not being overly productive, only one sack so far this season. Plus, they signed him to a massive contract, so his cap hit is like through the roof. It's huge. So what did the Bears do? Well, we knew the Bears were not going to be good this season, right? They have a bad roster with a young quarterback and a first-time head coach. There was no scenario in which the Bears were going to make the playoffs or be a really good team. It just didn't make any sense based on where their roster was and what their front office really looked like. From the head coach to the GM, who's also new, the Bears had no shot at being a good team this year. And that's okay, because the head coach and the GM, Brian Poles, are going, what can we do to make sure our team is better next year? Well, let's ship off Robert Quinn. He's not being impactful in our scheme this year. He's also a little bit older, so let's free up a little bit of cap room. Let's get in an additional draft pick. So now we have an additional draft pick to build our team through the draft. We have more salary cap to play with in the offseason. And we can really go aggressive on a lot of these free agents and really start building our roster so that we have a legitimate shot to be a good team next year. Love it. Bears, A1, well done. For the Philadelphia Eagles, essentially, they actually just traded Jalen Reagor for Robert Quinn. And here's why. In the offseason, the Philadelphia Eagles traded Jalen Reagor to the Minnesota Vikings for a fourth-round pick. Then they just swapped that fourth-round pick for Robert Quinn to the Bears. So they got rid of a wide receiver who was not impactful on their team to go get a defensive stud, Robert Quinn, onto their team to help them make a deep playoff push. Love it. This is exactly how NFL teams should evaluate and associate value to players in the NFL. This is perfect. Well done on both sides. Everybody kind of gets what they wanted out of this one and sets both teams up for success where their franchises are right now. The Bears get to build next year. The Philadelphia Eagles get to go make that championship run. So this was awesome. Now, some of the rumors kind of circulating the NFL right now in terms of trades, Alvin Kamara seems to be on the trade block, and the Eagles seem like the front runners there too. And I'm actually kind of cool with this one as well. I'm not really sure why the Saints would want to get rid of Alvin Kamara, but they're searching for a package of picks similar to what the San Francisco 49ers gave up to get Christian McCaffrey in their building. So if you're going to get rid of your star player in Alvin Kamara, you have to get a slew of draft picks. The Eagles have a slew of draft picks, and they're just really looking to solidify their offense and get as many different playmakers and impact players that they can onto their roster. So if the Eagles can somehow manage to package a set of picks together to go get Alvin Kamara, I'm all for it, right? I'm all in on the Eagles train right now. They're undefeated. I think they have a legitimate shot to win the whole thing this year. So I'm kind of rooting for them to go get Alvin Kamara just because I think it's kind of fun watching the Eagles just make right decision after right decision after right decision to put their team in the best spot to win. So I'm rooting for the Eagles this year, even though I'm not really an Eagles fan, but I think they're doing a lot of good things. Now, from the Jets' perspective, they have two wide receivers who I think possibly could get traded before the deadline. That would be Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims. Now, Elijah Moore has not really had a role in this offense since Zach Wilson has taken over. He's voiced his frustration numerous times. He's requested a trade. He wants to get the fuck up out of there because he's just not being utilized in their offensive scheme. He's not getting touches. And so he wants to move on from the Jets and go to a team where there's a real opportunity for him to play. I think the Packers would be a logical landing spot for him. I think, maybe the Texans, but I don't know because John Mechie's coming back next year, so who's really to say there? But I think Elijah Moore kind of fits in with a couple different schemes and a couple different offenses around the NFL. So there might be an opportunity for him to get off the Jets if he continues to be underutilized like he is. Now, Denzel Mims similarly has voiced his frustration with the Jets organization and his lack of usage in the offense. I don't really think he's gotten a fair shake since he got drafted by the Jets. And of course, this is outside looking in. I don't know Denzel Mims personally. I don't know what's going on inside the locker room. I don't know any of that. It just seems like outside looking in from a doofus's perspective like mine, he just hasn't really gotten the shot he deserves. I think actually Denzel Mims makes a lot of sense to go over to the Houston Texans because the Texans are also looking to ship off Brandon Cooks, potentially. I think it would be really smart for the Texans to get rid of Brandon Cooks because it frees up cap space and you're going to get a package of picks to utilize in this upcoming draft. Now, the Texans getting rid of Brandon Cooks is going to essentially tank their season this year, which is fine. I think they're kind of in a similar spot as the Bears, just maybe a couple years behind because they just don't have the roster or the front office or the coaching staff really ready to make that playoff push. So I think getting rid of a star player like Brandon Cooks, who's already 29, who we know what his value is, he's been shipped all over the place from the Rams to the Saints, to the Patriots, and he's on the Texans, and that was completely out of order, by the way, in terms of where he got traded, but he's always going for first-round picks. So I think if the Texans can get at least a first-round pick, maybe a second, third, fourth, some sort of package for picks, they can take some of those draft picks and kind of flip them to get Denzel Mims on their roster, who would be a legitimate outside threat. And I really think that would be a good kind of deal to ship off Cooks, get a couple picks, bring in Mims, and start that sort of rebuild for the receiver core. I think that would kind of be a fun, interesting, maybe 3-4-way team trade there. But, we'll kind of see how all that plays out as well. And then the last guy I really wanted to talk about was Cam Akers. He's currently on the Los Angeles Rams. And I really don't understand what's going on here. I don't think a lot of people really understand what's going on here because Sean McVay has been really cagey about his relationship and what's going on inside the locker room with Cam Akers. All we know is that Cam Akers wants out of LA, and that's it. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he clearly wants to get out of there. McVay has benched him, then unbenched him, then benched him again. He's been hurt. He's been healthy. He's been good. He's been bad. It's been a complete roller coaster for Cam Akers. And I really thought that Cam Akers was going to end up, getting traded over to the Jets. But because the Jets fucking fleeced the Jaguars, I don't really see where Cam Akers can kind of fit in on a different roster. And the Rams have already said, we're not going to cut you if we can't trade you. We're going to get something for you or you're going to stay on the team. So at this point, I really don't think he's going to get moved. I don't think there's a team out there that makes a lot of sense to bring him in, but we'll kind of see how that all shakes out. But that's a lot of the trade rumors and some of the trades that have already happened as we approach the trade deadline.